Good morning, everyone. I'm glad you've chosen to join us, you who are here in the room and all of you out there in internet land. Thank you for joining us today for Guy's special talk today on a Sunday, the 7th of April. So just quickly, those of you who don't know, our format is going to be, Guy gives about a 60-minute talk, takes a 5-minute break, and we'll come back for our questions and answers. And that's the time where all of you, online or in the room, are able to talk directly to Guy or ask a question. If you're on one of the other platforms, trying to find the word, platforms, such as Facebook or YouTube, you can write a question in the chat box, and you can do that at any time, and we'll help you behind the scenes. As well, if you have a technical problem online, go to one of those places or to the GoToWebinar control panel questions, and we'll help you there as best we can. And if you're in the room, once more to remind you to turn your cell phone off now. If you have one with you, now's the time to do that. And we're going to go ahead and get started with today's class. Here's today's topic and first part of the key lessons. How to say I do when the divine asks if you will. And the key lesson, part 1. We can't be anxiously looking for real life and take part in its rebirth at the same time.
Good morning, everyone. And of course, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you who are joining us, whatever day or time it may be that you're able to do so. How to say I do when the divine asks if you will. If you will what? We're going to take a rather in-depth look at something today. I have a special writing that is summarized in the second key lesson that I'll ask Deb to bring up before I start this talk. It's a very simple one. It says, united we see, divided we fall. United we see, divided we fall. United to what? I'm about to sneeze. And it won't come. My right eye is going to start watering, and then I'm going to faint. United to what? Oh, sorry. It's difficult to talk. There are some things that when you see them, it's rather quick and brief, the understanding, the impression from it. And then there are other things that we can look at. Maybe you've had the experience, have ever been in a museum or seen a great piece of art, a sculpture someplace, or for that matter, there was a great piece of artwork driving here today. Over on the right side of the window as I was coming to class, there was this perfectly green, freshly washed mountain, and dappled above it were these most beautiful white clouds with tinges of gray, and some of the cloud had descended just to touch the top of the mountain. Pretty perfect art. And in moments like that, as we've always talked about together, you're not looking for anything to complete you. You're part of a complete moment. And you're as much a part of that moment as that which you see in its complete state for the moment that you see it. Of course, if we were to stay there long enough, we would see all that's moving, but all of that movement is part of its perfection too, is part of its union. So I want to frame this bit of spiritual art that we're going to look at tonight, but this morning, as more of a mural, more as something that you don't look at and grasp all at once, and yet that as you look at it without taking it apart, you begin to see there is a unity to what you're being shown, and it is the whole of that impression that the artist is after. The divine artist is after capturing the whole of your attention, so that the whole of the impression of that moment, which is inseparable from the parts of you that it is revealed in, can be known by you. But you and I, that's not the way we look at things. For us, and I can speak very personally about this, our life, we come into this life, and before we know it, we're looking for a partner. Partner on the play field, partner in the play of life, looking for someone as, what was that movie, Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire. You complete me. I'm looking for something to complete me. My whole life has been a search for something to complete me. Only the life that I was born in, I was told that the way you're completed is through achievement. Get this, acquire that, you're completed. Hallelujah, it's done. Find the right partner in life, everything's handled. You're safe, you're secure. Someone loves me. Have children, get a home. Decorate it, redecorate it, decorate it again. Do some more. Because I'm constantly looking for something in my mind that when I acquire it and finally produce what it imagines will make me whole, I have my partner. Except there's one problem with that, and it's in scale, isn't it? Because at some point, this life that is your true partner and the divine that is in the end your real partner, this body is going to call it quits. And then where is all of your acquisitions? Then where is all of the authority that you've acquired? Then where is all of that angst over your family and friends that aren't doing and being what you want them to be, so you can have a partner as you've imagined will produce this sense of well-being and familial love? That's all in its place, nothing wrong with it. I remember growing up, I was always an idea man. Do you know what an idea man is? Someone who does no work. I knew there was something wrong, even from the time when I was 12 years old and a veritable Tom Sawyer. Get somebody enthused, get them to do what they're enthused about, and just participate as you can and take what you will from their energy, from their actions. As a boy, all the way through my late teens, I created one company after another. Some of them became successful, but they all required other people to do what I didn't want to do myself. And so what I called my partners were people like some kind of spider invited into a web where they would be drained of their potential and energy, serving an individual need of my own, so that I could be partner with whatever I imagined I would be when I finally acquired everything that I saw my father acquire that turned him into a broken man. And so one spends their whole life, you don't know it, you spend your whole life like that, looking for a partner for the moment. Someone to think about, somewhere to go, something to do, the partner of the moment, because when my mind gloms on to what it is imagined, will finally let it become as it wants to be. In that moment, all the disturbance is gone. But the moment that that partner, meaning the conditions that produced it, evaporate, and they always do, the whole of this life is going to evaporate. The minute they do, Out the window it goes. The conflict is back. The disturbance has started again, and now I need another partner. And I don't care who my partner is at a certain point. I'm happy to be depressed over how unfulfilled I am. I'm happy to have an enemy because for that moment, my partner is the part of me that blames you for the bitterness that I feel. And it never ends, does it? Now, contrast that to this whole idea of what man taking thought can add 1 cubit to his stature. Translation, who amongst you, imagining a partner, is going to enhance your life? Take no thought for tomorrow. Have no plans for the next moment. What, are you kidding? I live in a ceaselessly unfolding plan to perfect the partnerships that have yet to make me perfect myself. All is in vain in the field of opposites. Well, where else am I supposed to work? My unhappiness, my happiness to come. My displeasure, my pleasure to come. You are my problem. When I get you straightened out, I'll be happy. And you'll be the partner you're meant to be. Isn't that what's wrong with everybody? They're not the partner they're supposed to be in that moment? Yes or no? Yes. And every partner you imagine, whether it's your pal, your daughter, your mother, your father, whoever it is, every partner that you imagine never comes up short, but in your eyes, when they don't live up to what you want them to be, they've come up short. Now you have to reimagine them and a new partnership so that you can get on with your life. Yes or no? So we live in a virtually endless search. When everything about spiritual life tells us, you're doing all of this in vain. Isn't the search for an opposite of that which I am feeling in the moment? Isn't it? So I'm thinking about tomorrow. Why am I thinking about tomorrow? Because where I am today isn't satisfactory. So I have to imagine a partner to come, because I can't simply be here with me like this. It's not suitable. So I've always got iron, the expression, wasn't it amazing? You're taught to have irons in the fire. Do you know what happens when you have a lot of irons in the fire? You cook your own goose and nothing gets done. All of that energy wasted. Literally wasted. And the beauty of it is, in quotes, is that I don't even know it's being wasted because I'm so full of the sensations of someone who is soon to get to someplace, be someone who at last isn't bugged. Now, every one of these partners, where are they? Come on, work with me. This is the simple part. Don't sit and look at me like I'm cursing you to something. Where are all of my partners? Are they with me now? Are they with me now? Where are they? In my mind, in an imagined time to come. Which means that every partner that I imagine is, in fact, part of a level of consciousness that by imagining the partner that will finally produce this happiness that I'm looking for, is actually dividing me into that which I don't want to be and that which I need and that which is required for me to get past the endless sense of being incomplete. So my life is spent all the time in time looking for what I hope will be timeless. Whole life. So the teachings, the true teachings, East or West, the true teachings all say one thing. And they say simply that you are in a world where, without knowing it, you are subject to, you are immersed in, drowning in an unconscious nature that is always looking for a partner to bring an end to the sense of itself, produced by itself, of being separate from life. So that life is this endless search for some way to be united to what I've imagined will make me whole. Yeah? Yes. Except the problem with imagining what will unite me is what? It's done by a divided nature that the more it imagines what it needs, the more it divides itself. The more it divides itself, the more it needs a new partner. Are you getting the big picture? So where am I going to find this partner? This is what's rugged, by the way, about true spiritual teachings. You have to be, no, I won't say it that way. You need to realize that there is already a partner in your life that is your life and that exists to do the one thing that you don't want any of your presently imagined partners to do for you. And you know what your true partner does in life? It shows you every last false partner that appears to seemingly take its place. That's what your real partner does. It's always there, the light that dwells in the darkness, the part of you that goes before you. All of those things allude to a relationship that you already have, but that you're asleep to. And I want to look at this with you because it escapes us because of our preoccupation with the endless imagination of a partner to come. And what is the allure? Remember, I'm trying to show you a big picture. What is the allure of this imagined partner to come? What is the allure of it? Anybody? I'm temporarily satisfied. For the moment, I have a sensation of self. And my sensation of self is, I can see this thing that's coming. It's great. Or my sensation is, God, it didn't work out. Things are terrible. And that order of self doesn't care what it partners with, whether it calls it a positive image or a negative image. It could care less because all it's after is the temporary sensation of being filled with life as it knows it. Again, what makes this spiritual work so difficult is this is not about a life that you know. But it's about gradually being able to see by the light of your real partner, I don't know. I'm afraid to be without a partner. You don't understand. Please, no, you don't understand that. You don't understand your mind literally produces a thought for the purpose of another thought being its partner that will understand what the thinker has done. That's what it does, and it's seamless. So I'm always partnered like some strange dark string of pearls connected to each other, one after another, from thought to thought to thought, and each thought that comes up, because by its very nature it is imagined and seeking to complete itself, must have something in order to do it with, and so it calls on the partner. And where is every partner of thought? Where is every partner I imagine that will make me whole in the future? From where does every one of those partners come? My past. Imagination. Thought. So I spend, without knowing it, my life in an endless series of engagements. Being, if you will, temporarily married, wedded to whatever it is that my mind identifies with as the image is drawn out of the darkness of the past, out of this incomplete nature. As it's drawn up, suddenly there it is. I know what's wrong. You. I know what's wrong. The world. And I'm not saying that you or the world, I'm not saying it isn't full of darkness. What else can happen to a world populated and pushed along by human beings who only know how to look for a partner outside of themselves and then blame the partner they imagined for the pain they're in when everything goes to hell in a handbasket. So 2 levels of being. One that imagines its partner and then tries to marry through imagination itself to what it is imagined. And the other, another level of self that has come into this world already part of a wedding. Already part of something that is constantly, perfectly proving itself to be the consummate partner of anyone who is willing to have that divine light as its partner. Two completely different relations, right? One is always looking. See, here's the problem. Then, when you get up in the morning, what is it like to be you? Yes or no? Thinking about her, thinking about him. What am I going to do? How can I make this work? No, that's not going to go the way I want it. What does that mean? Oh, no. God, there he is again. Why is she saying those things? It's like some murderous battlefield in which all of these thoughts and feelings in competition with one another, and every last one, when it meets its enemy, trying to imagine how to be some kind of David on the field with Goliath and win the battle. And the problem is, even if you win the momentary battle, you're immediately back in the field of struggle, are you not? The teachings on this planet have always been about one thing. Christ said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." My yoke is easy. That which already a part of myself, already a part of yourself, only asleep, that which effortlessly sees the opposites, the yoke, the 2 oxen, doesn't see them as battering into each other. I want this, I don't want that. Doesn't see them as pulling each other apart, trying to get here in order to escape that. It sees the opposites as the perfect unity that they are. My yoke is easy. There's nothing for me to do. My burden is light because I understand that those opposites are brought together in a marriage, in a union that existed long before I became aware of them. Am I going too fast? Everything that we see, even in our physical world, tells us about this union, about this marriage. You look out, you know the expression, we talk about it as above, so below. Is not the sun that comes down, we can actually see a grape arbor. It's not the sun that comes down that feeds the vine. Is that sun not in a kind of union with the vine that it feeds? And is not the branch that will grow from the vine also in a union with the sun that feeds the vine that feeds the branch? And what of the fruit that will come from the branch? Isn't all of that part of a constant marriage between levels of being? The sun has nothing to do with the vine itself except for one thing that we don't see. The vine is actually made of sun. Isn't it? So the light that works on the vine is really working on itself in another form, in another order of time. And the branch that grows from the vine is also made of the same light and is also part of that wedding that takes place, where everything that comes from on high and enters into what is on low is part of a marriage, and out of that marriage an endless transformation, and what? A rebirth, a transformation that is as endless as the light and the forms that it acts upon. Please, yes? And in that, if you can understand that in scale, then can you not understand that you and I are not different? We're just a different order of being than the branch and the vine itself. So much of the all Scripture, the parable of the wedding guest. If you're not familiar with it, Christ told his disciples this story, trying to make this point that I'm trying to help you see. A man was invited to a wedding. You're invited to a wedding. But the problem with you and I, we think we're the main guest. This wedding's about me, isn't it? So here this man, he comes and he thinks this wedding is about him. And Christ tells the story, when you're invited to a wedding, don't make the mistake of taking the best seat in the house, of thinking it's just for you, because if you do, the odds are that the man throwing the feast is going to come and say to you, no, you've taken the wrong place. And he will put you in a low place, and yours will be the dishonor. Instead of being exalted the way you imagine yourself, you will be unexalted, and someone else will be put in your place. And then he finishes the whole thing by saying, who exalts himself will be humbled, and who will humble himself will be exalted. A reversal, isn't it? Aren't we always trying to exalt ourselves? I don't have time to go into all this, but you know that whenever you judge someone, it's because you're exalting yourself. So I don't know about you, but we're in a constant struggle for the best seat at the wedding, aren't we? And yet here's this other order of being. Whoever tries to take the best seat is going to get the worst one. And whoever takes the worst seat is going to be exalted and given a better seat. What does that mean? How is it possible? Again, I want to say it. We're all at the same wedding, but we think it's in our honor. The wedding is not in our honor. The wedding is so that we can begin as human beings, put here for a specific purpose. The wedding is for us to honor that which has invited us to the wedding, and that which gives us a new life through the marriage that takes place when we have the right partner in the moment. Following me? When I was a boy, I did actually quite a few certain things. And I remember once my father saying, you know what, you need to be taken down a notch or two. Anybody ever say that to you in one way or another? You get off your high and mighty horse. And isn't it disgusting to us, the idea of being told, take us a less seat at the feast, isn't it? And the reason it's so distasteful to us is because whoever is talking to us with that tone, looking at us with that face, they don't understand that look, I've come to someone else's wedding, but I want everyone's attention. And then one day, and you wouldn't be here if it hadn't happened in some way to you. One day you realize I'll say it in a few different ways. Should I start strong or weak? What a monster I am. I expect you to toe the line. Move. When you talk, don't talk like that. Talk like this. I don't particularly care what happens in the world as long as my security isn't threatened by it. I'm happy to have you as my partner, but when you are like you are and you're negative and in pain, I don't want anything to do with you. So that suddenly, by some, and listen please, by some light, that man or woman, prior to that moment where they are shown that which is inside of themselves, prior to that, the advent of that light, that person has no idea what they are like inwardly, do they? They are a machine. They are part of an unconscious nature, pushing, change this partner, do this, fix that. And then out of the clear blue sky, and may it happen 1,000,000 times, suddenly, geez, what? And in that moment where you go, oh my God, do you know why you say, oh my God, for that moment? Do you know what has produced the awareness of this unconscious character that is in constant conflict with itself and therefore with the world around it? Do you know what has produced that moment where suddenly you're given that which you see about yourself? Can anybody guess what it is? It's the wedding. It's the marriage. Suddenly that which has always been my partner before I took this body is bringing into this unconscious nature the light that reveals to that nature the darkness it knows not. And in the moment in which that darkness it knows not is revealed by that by the divine light, my partner, the Christ. In that moment, I'm invited to a wedding, am I not? Am I not? But is my place at the wedding the best seat? Or is by the fact of being shown what I've been shown, am I not in that moment brought into this place? Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the meek. Is there not in the instant of that marriage a humility? And isn't the result of that union a humbleness? Yes or no? Do you see how different we look at life? I don't want anything to do with anything that isn't supporting me as I've imagined myself being supported by my partner of the moment. And for most of us, my partner of the moment is what I'm thinking about 10 minutes from now or 10 years downstream. And I'm never at the wedding. I'm never where all of that is streaming in. Where a feast is prepared in the presence of my enemies. I don't know how much I'm able to communicate to you of this. What is my burden is light, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. What does that got to do with a feast in the presence of my enemies? Or blessed are the, what does that got to do with a feast in the presence of my enemies? Because the reason it's a feast in the presence of my enemies is because of the first time I'm sitting down at a meal with my partner who's showing me, look, Guy, this part of yourself that you believe is so perfect or getting there, that's not your partner, man. Nor is the person or the place you're looking to that time to come. That's not your partner, man. It feels like it because there's hope in it. But the hope belongs to a dope. It does. It belongs to someone who's doped, who's drugged on the fantasy of some place and time where everything's going to finally be perfect because they've imagined a partner that's going to get them there. And who imagines the partner that's going to deliver you from your pain other than the pain that doesn't want to know itself? Please? Remember our talk on Easter, the heart of the cross? I'm describing that to you. That's where the wedding is. Where that which is timeless pours into that which is in time. And there is, by the very union of what is divine into this will of the world, the will of the divine into the will of the world, the light of the divine into the temporary light that is itself a manifestation of it. Everything acting to bring about a union, and through the union, the realization that it is the divine acting on the divine, and the union is that, but you and I have to play our part in that marriage. Because for one thing, we don't want anything to do with it. So here's the man at the wedding, the woman at the wedding, and they've taken the best place, and they're told you're in the wrong place. Why are they in the wrong place? Because they believe it's their wedding. Yeah, it's their. See, so everything that I'm trying to show you, my father, he'd love me. He might be able to, he'll get this. Suddenly I'm in the right place. I'm in the right place because I understand there's only one place to be in at all times. Not a place to come, not a place that was, but a place where, because of my understanding, little by little by little, this is the moment in which the wedding's taking place. See, this is hard for you to grasp, but I know that. It never feels when you're sitting at home and you're anxious or you're worried or you're suffering over whatever, you're going, you've got to think, you've got to get all this done. I'm going down to LA for a couple of days. You watch your mind. The older you get, the more things you pack. Why is that? Because when I get to that place, I want everything perfect. So in the search of the perfection, the partner that you will have wherever you're going to do what you're going to do, in the very effort to perfect that, what's your life like? Filled with anxiety. And the more anxiety and suffering and stress there is over a time to come, the more you have to imagine more partners to make sure that everything's great when you get there. Isn't that true? Please. And then by the grace of God, should it be for you, you're present to the fact that all of this is going on. This tumult never stops. And it never stops because this unconscious nature never stops looking for a time when it won't be in pain. And it's pain looking for a time to bring an end to pain, and it doesn't exist. But what does is the light that's there with you in that moment to show you everything about that nature that you are not aware of because you're fully identified with it at the time. And then comes the one thing that's the most difficult for all of us, where this talk is leading. When the sun comes to the vine, back to that, right, as above, so below, yes or no? When the sun comes to the vine, what does the vine do? I hinted at this yesterday. On one part, the vine doesn't just go, no light, no energy. Why doesn't it do that? Because it is already in a marriage, isn't it? Light with light. And it takes in all of that energy, and what it doesn't take in allows us to see there's a vine. Because without the vine resisting some of the energy, there'd be no color, there'd be no form, there'd be no shapes, no distance to observe things from. So in theory now, try to follow me. What does the vine have to do when the sunlight comes to it? What is the requirement of the vine and the requirement of the branch? What is its requirement when the sun comes to it? When the light comes to the vine, what is it required to do? Submit. That's its job. Because in submitting, in being submissive, passive to the active light, a relationship is revealed that is a wedding that produces the child, the fruit. Please? So can you see in scale that everything, the endless reconciliation and the transformation of creation, I know it's a big sentence, the endless reconciliation and transformation of creation, yeah, requires that all of creation do what all the time? Submit. Accept what is acting on it, so that in the acceptance of what is acting on it, it might become the actor that gives the life and passes along what everything else in that great field needs and must have. Yeah? How do you do with the idea of submission? Oh, I'm so serious. Sweet God, please submit. What, are you kidding? Be submissive? Not me. You're not going to talk to me like that. You can't get away with this. I'm not going to submit. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to fight. And what am I fighting for? My partner. That which I believe has produced my security. And so my idea of submission is what you do to enhance what makes me safe. What increases my authority. That's my idea of submission, and it belongs to everyone around me, not to me, because I don't submit to anything. What do you get angry with people about? They've dared to challenge your position, haven't they? So here's, if you're seeing it with me, this immense disparity. This is what you have to do. Not because I say it, because it is the very development of your soul. Here's this immense disparity. On one hand, I can see with my eyes, spiritually speaking anyway, that life is this one grand wedding, this endless inpouring into that which receives it and pours it out and passes it along, so that there's an endless marriage between the heavens and the earth, between the will of what is timeless and the will of what is in time. But the will of what's in time has to submit, doesn't it, to the will of what is timeless? But does that mean there's no resistance in the will of what is in time? Or is it built into that creation, built into me, that which can understand what that resistance is and recognize that it has a part in this, and part of it is to reveal to me what has come to release me from that consciousness, that unconscious nature. But for that to happen, I have to do what? You see, it's so distasteful to us, this idea of humility, unless we can be proud of how humble we are. But everything comes from the highest to the lowest. And every fight that you have, with no exception, is because something has come along and momentarily threatened the sense of yourself as derived from what you have partnered with, that thought, that feeling, that belief, everything that comes along. And yet, the idea of being submissive, and that here's what you don't see. You're all the time perfectly submissive to all of the wrong parts of yourself. I'm submissive to every negative reaction. Am I not? Yeah. I'm submissive to every worry that comes along when it doesn't look like what I've partnered with is going to prove itself valuable. Am I not? And then I'm submissive to the wave of negative associations, so that I'm carried in a submissive place by a wave of thoughts and feelings that as I'm riding along thinking I'm headed towards something great, I'm actually headed towards the shoal. And when I hit the shoal and I'm in that kind of suffering, then I'm submissive to the part of me that blames everyone and everything else around me. Are you not submissive to the constant state of blaming people? And you don't want to be submissive. But submissive to what? Submissive to revelation. Submissive to the moment in which, by the grace of God, pours into this dark nature, this unconscious self, a light that in the split second that it arrives reveals that which it came to resurrect, that which it came to stir into an awakened state. But that consciousness, that light has come in, unlike the vine that accepts the light that gives it life, that produces creation. It feels like it's a victim of the very thing that has come to rescue it with a wedding that can produce a rebirth of itself. That's how it sees things, isn't it? You see for a split second how selfish you are. The very thought of taking a lesser seat, it's repulsive. I can't do it. And it is the beginning of the awareness of this part that says, I can't, I won't, I will not, that begins to stir in the mind and the heart, willing to see it. A revelation, oh my God, I have the wrong partner. And then the discovery, I'm terrified to live without it. Are you not? Terrified to live without proving to you where you're wrong. Because if I don't prove to you where you're wrong, I have to be submissive. Listen to this. I have to be submissive to you. Do you know how many people call in, how many times over the 40 or 50 years? Do you know how many times that's all the time? I'm not going to be somebody's doormat. Whether it's an individual, a political, anything. I'm not going to be a doormat. I'm not going to be submissive. And in the very moment that you're talking about not being submissive, what are you? Submissive to an anger, a violence that hides in itself its actual relationship with a partner, some image or belief that isn't even your own. And then uses that pain to prove that it's partnered with the right thing. It's righteousness. When the appearance of the light within the darkness, when the light of the sun comes into the vine, and you must understand this. You see a vine. What the vine in the vineness is a darkness. It's a matter. It's dark matter congealed. It's energy, and that light comes into it. You can't see what's going on in the dark. But in order for that light to do what it's meant to do, bring about the wedding, that which is in the dark has to submit to what's acting on it, doesn't it? So you and I have to understand, and again, I'm going to run out of time, I can see it, because here's some language that is really, really hated by most human beings. You ready? Consistent submissiveness. An endless understanding that what is required isn't for you and I to struggle with the moment we don't want, and in the struggle to be shown by that consciousness in conflict with the moment, the next partner required to get rid of the pain inherent in that consciousness. There must be an unending submissiveness to the advent of that light that is revealing that unconscious nature, because that ceaseless submissiveness is the wedding. Did I lose you? See, are we not a one and done society? Yes or no? One and done. Okay, I'll surrender. Like, okay, I did it. The vine never stops surrendering. And the soul that would produce the fruit it's intended to must never stop surrendering to that which is showing it the content of itself. And it never stops showing it. That's the other thing. I talked about 2 levels of being. I better get to the exercise because I have special writing I want to share. My struggle in life is all the time trying to either protect what I've imagined is my partner, my money, my authority, my possessions, what you think of me. What is the attempt to appear in any way whatsoever in front of another human being? What is the whole attempt to appear, to be seen by anyone the way you want them to see you? What is that attempt about? Isn't it because I have partnered with this idea that if I look like this, you'll see me like that? And if you don't see me like that, then we have a problem. And then I'll either have to put more into my giddy up, or I have to change horses. It's pretty simple, isn't it? And at some point, there's not a lot of giddy up left, is there? Changing the metaphor, that dog don't hunt no more. I'm going to have to listen, to see myself struggle in order to keep my life in place is the light that is bringing me and inviting me to a wedding by which I see the life I'm trying to keep in place isn't my own. Then there's a shift. And the shift is from looking for a way to be free to seeing the nature that isn't and imagines it will be. Allowing the light that comes in that moment to do what it is intended to do, which is not to glorify me, but to reveal that which is always being glorified. This is what's so hard to understand. That which you don't want to see in yourself is inseparable from what created it. And what is acting on what you don't want to see in yourself is in order to bring what you don't want to be into the being that is the wedding and the outcome of it, all at once. But not if I'm like this. So I have to come into a new kind of struggle, don't I? Right now, what do we struggle? The truth is, there's no you struggling. That's another whole story. You think you're struggling. You're not struggling. You're in a struggle produced by an unconscious nature that does not want to submit to anything proving it isn't how it's imagined itself to be. An unconscious nature in a ceaseless struggle with a light that has come to release it by transforming it. Now, given everything we've looked at, and I'm going to go over a special writing in a moment, what do you imagine the exercise would be to attend this wedding that is ceaseless? What do you imagine it would be? Here it is simply, and then I'll describe it to you. Stop looking for a partner and start seeing you already have one. Never left your side. As they say in the East, closer than your jugular vein. What's the temptation when a moment comes and you're in pain? What's the first thing we do? We go looking. Yes or no? the disturbed thoughts, the upheaval of the emotion. Apparently, whatever it partnered with isn't working out in that moment. Something's coming and I'm not prepared. In order to be prepared, I need what? Another new partner. Except the real catch is that there is no new partners for you. Because every partner you imagine is part of your past, part of an unconscious nature, not just your own. God help me. I'm anxious. Instead of trying to figure out a way to get through it again, let me see that I would never know that there was something trying to get through it again if I weren't already in a partnership with the light revealing that nature to me. Do you see it? You've heard over and over again the idea of be still and know that I am. What does that mean, be still and know that I am? It means stop looking, start seeing. The awareness of yourself is never not here. But we are not here in our awareness. Because if I was here in the awareness of myself, then that light would show me what this self is and what it's doing every moment, wouldn't it? That's my partner. I am the light of this world. I am that which shows every man and woman who and what is going through them and why it's going through them, and that they need not call that their partner when I am already their partner, as is my Father in heaven, my partner. The endless vine and branch in a ceaseless marriage is not all of creation in a ceaseless marriage. If it wasn't, it would just grind to a halt, wouldn't it? So something constantly misdirects me. You must understand that you actually have to suspect when you're angry or anxious or afraid, you start to get depressed again, that in that moment something has come and proven to you, though you do not see it because all you feel is the pain, that all of my partners, they're worthless. My life is worthless. I often feel that way after a bad game of golf. It visits, there's no question about it. But it's a fool that believes that the idea that somehow or other who and what they have been in that moment means they're condemned to be that for the rest of their life, unless they look for a partner that produced that moment, and then they are condemned to live with that unconscious partner that produces the endless perfection it promises. So don't go looking for more partners. Catch yourself moving in a stream of thought. Catch yourself going into time, whether it's the past or the future. Be aware of the movement of thought. Because now you're not looking through the eyes of thought, you're seeing thought as it is being moved. You're seeing thought as it is being moved, which means you're aware of this unconscious nature, are you not? And it is the awareness of that unconscious nature that is the wedding. Because in the awareness of the unconscious nature, what is in the dark is what? It is transformed. And something new is born, is it not? Successive subordination. Successive subordination. Oh my God. Subordinate means to place myself below someone, doesn't it? It means another order. Instead of the order where I'm on top determining everything, now I'm in the right order of life, which is allowing that which is divine to act upon that which is intended to be reborn for its interaction. Let me read the key lesson. I won't have time to spell it out for you. Maybe if there's questions, we can do it. But this is a grand summary. Yes, the special writing, please. It's called Your Invitation to the Divine Wedding of Light. It is a wedding of light, isn't it? When Simone Weil penned this inspired observation, love is not consolation, it is light. She made clear in one sublime statement an ineffable supernal truth. The observer is the observed. Our wish and work to understand the truth of this invisible divine relationship reveals and grants at once the following invaluable insight that sets us on the path to unconditional freedom. Whatever we are aware of, that which is observed, and the light that reveals it are as one. Furthermore, the object and this light are inseparable from the awareness of the moment in which both appear. This holy awareness is a witness, an impersonal consciousness. It is the observer with neither precedent nor future nor past. It is the presence of a compassionate intelligence, itself born of a timeless love unfolding within itself, becoming conscious of itself all at once in a timeless now. However, much to the inconsolable sorrow it creates, what we now call our experience of any given moment sits outside this divine union. It is a creation of another lower kingdom called imagination, wherein nothing is reborn because no real light, no real life can enter into it. Awakening is the awareness and realization of this contrast between levels of consciousness that results in a successive subordination of oneself, a successive submission of oneself, otherwise known as the sacrifice of self. To be a conscious participant in the whole of this revelation is a ceaseless flowering that has been called self-liberation, rebirth. Not my will, but thy will be done, said Christ. I will subordinate myself to the greater order that while I don't want to be a part of it, I already am and recognize my obligation to take my place in it. Do you understand that? I understand my obligation to take my place in that order. And when understood properly, that means every living creature, every human being has their place in that order, and no place in that order is above or below any other, because every place in that order is part of the wedding. Isn't it? What if you, God, what if you could see that? Who would you take fault with? They are in that moment in the only place they can be, where at some point when they get tired of protecting and justifying and explaining themselves, when at last, when all of that comes to an end, they will participate in a wedding that was there all the time, but they couldn't see it because they were too busy taking the best seat, protecting themselves. Does the vine that is going to give birth to the branch that gives birth to the fruit, does it resist being submissive to the process that is fulfilling the very purpose of its life? Does it? No. Then why in the name of God would we resist being submissive to the light that reveals to us the purpose of our life, which is that our will might be made one with the will of heaven, so that there can be this perfect reconciliation? This is what you have to work at. Let's take a break. We'll come back and have our dialogue.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We're getting ready for Guy's Q&A. I just have a quick announcement regarding an opportunity, if you haven't already done so, that Guy's 4-talk Easter package for just a simple thank you gift with your, I'm saying a simple $10 donation, gives you 4 Easter talks, which ties in so well with today. If you haven't gotten that, do take advantage of that. It gives you the online replays, MP3 downloads, and transcripts for 4 of Guy's best Easter talks. And to do that, just go to guyfinley.org/package. I can't encourage you enough to do that. It helps us help others to be able to hear these. That's on all these donations would help spread this word. So just simply do that, guyfinley.org/package, and you'll get more information on how to do this. And we thank you always for your support of this work. And with that, I think that's all I need to say. Let's bring Guy in, and we can get going on our Q&A. Wow, there he is.
It scared me for a moment. I thought I was a lot of you.
I thought I was too many of me already. So
Yeah.
that was it. Do you have anything to say, Guy, or should we get going?
No, not at all. I'm happy to start a dialogue if anybody wants to come up in the audience or anybody out there in internet.
Great. Yeah, and if you're on GoToWebinar, you can raise your hand by clicking on that little hand icon. Looks like that in the control panel. Click on that. That brings you into the queue, and we can start a nice queue to start. Any impression from the talk or impressions from your work or questions are applicable now. But we do have a question that Roy just wrote in, Guy, and I'll read that to get it started.
Okay.
Roy asks, hello, Guy. If the desire of having partners is so burdensome, then shouldn't we blame God for creating us with these needs in the first place? Sometimes I think spiritual teachings try to guilt trip us into wanting partners when we were created with such desires. It's hypocritical to me, and it drives me nuts.
You don't have far to go, Roy. Roy, as best you can, don't take part in those parts of yourself that want to justify your pain. The burden isn't in having partners. The burden is identifying with them and believing that somehow, because of that partnership, you're going to be saved some kind of pain. In many ways, the whole point of partnerships at every level, physically speaking, is to bring you into the gradual awareness that you're looking into the wrong world for what you need to be a whole human being. But it doesn't mean, if you see that those partnerships aren't part of the unity. They're just a stage. They're a moment. They're part of the eventual subsequent submissiveness that one must have when they see, I thought I thought we were going to die together. She died. He died. Look at me now. I'm nothing. I've got no one. Or I wish that he would die or that she would die. And then I hate myself for being that. All of those relationships, every relationship is a unity between what resists and what insists. And it's what happens when these active and passive forces meet that determines what is born out of them. Because if the resistance is taken as being the proof that what is insisting in your moment, that God is, look, why would God do this? God isn't doing anything to you, you arrogant human beings. Where do you get off thinking that God is going to act on you? You're a fig Newton. You're an imagined creature filled with the arrogance of your position as derived from the partners that you've been given to imagination. That's who and what you are in this world. And by the grace of God, and it is by the grace of God, you're given the insight into that burden. And that's the burden. It's called you. Your belief in yourself, the hope in yourself, the angry feelings you have towards people that have betrayed you. One day you'll understand, thank God I went through all of that. Thank God he lied to me. Thank God she stole from me. You know why you'll say that? Because in that moment you'll have realized they were a divine messenger the whole time to drag you out of being identified with some partnership that you believe would perfect your life. And it may have played its place, which is beautiful. I have a marriage with my wife. How many years? 40-something. 43 years with my wife. Will I weep when she dies? Absolutely. Although I promise that I'm going to go first. No, that she's, sorry, I had it backwards. I promise that she gets to go first. Why? So that she won't have to bear the suffering that she'll feel when I die. That's what love is. It agrees to bear the suffering. It is the marriage, isn't it? And the marriage always involves sacrifice, and sacrifice always requires what? Being submissive to my demands. Okay, next.
All right, Doug, my name's Doug, you're Guy. Guy, we have Tony in the queue.
Oh, hi, I'm on the queue. Thank you. Hi, Guy. Nice to see you.
Hi,
Tony. You had a great Easter talk last week, but today it's just wonderful the way you discuss principally every encounter in the moment could actually be a wedding.
Amen.
Could actually be a holy relationship.
Yes.
And the thing I feel about that in my experience is that I need to find what the attributes are of God through his example, which was Jesus, which is what I was Bible bashed with growing up. And I think the man Jesus is an amazing character. The rest of the Bible has some usefulness, but I think Jesus is the man. And he, I don't see Jesus ever having been submissive. I see him as being vulnerable, willing to be vulnerable. And so I think that when you say submissive, you mean we need to be submissive to that ego part of us, that part of us when we grow up in the U.S. talks about rugged individualism and
Tony,
all that, right?
Well, Tony, and again, as you know, and God bless you for your persistence, you know that there are certain words that are larger than a pill you can swallow.
That's true.
Yeah. And for you, that word submissive is a big one. Christ was perfect. He was the lamb. That's not vulnerable. That's perfect submission. That's understanding that I am here for the sake of being sacrificed, for the sake of humanity, and not Christ himself paying for the sins so that other human beings don't have to go through that, but so that other human beings through the light of that life can see within them dwells this nature that is sin personified, that is selfishness personified, that is anger personified, and to recognize that, to allow that light to show me now is the time. Now is Abraham and Isaac. Now the first must become last. All of that in this constant submissiveness to the revelation that shows us what we have to, that shows us who we can no longer be. And that's not being vulnerable. That's being submissive to the revelation of what I can no longer be. And one day it'll resonate so totally, Tony. I was making some notes yesterday. I'm going to talk about it later. How did we get to a place where we believe somehow or other that it's intelligent to resist life? Where's the intelligence in resistance? And then I know the mind says, well, what about the French resistance? Oh, they overcame the Germans. They overcame nothing. War can't be overcome by resistance. War is ended when resistance is seen as futility and a union takes place, which isn't going to take place anytime soon on this planet, but as you and I do our work, we will gradually bring about the possibility of a more lasting union between heaven and earth. So, Tony, so nice to hear from you, and let's you and I keep slugging away, okay? Let's go on, Doug.
Yes.
All right, Guy, there's a question left over from Insight Timer. And once again, anybody who would like to come to the mic in the room or want to raise your hand or write a question, now's the time. Here's a very short question from EL. Is there ever a real I can't in this world of duality?
Well, to put that in context for people who don't know, I had given a talk on this idea that within us is this incessant, I just spoke of it, resistance. And the resistance is always to any moment that seems to threaten our partnership, what we're identified with, yes? And I said that this resistance seems to be protecting us. When it's not protecting us, it's protecting an unconscious nature that's identified with what it believes is its partner. And it wouldn't have to try to protect it if it hadn't proven itself to be faulty, would it? So then I said that has to come to an end, because really behind behind I can't do this, I can't accept that, behind all that is something that's going, I will not look at this. I'm not going to look at this because my mind says it's done. Isn't it when you're negative, isn't it done? He's wrong, she's wrong, they're wrong, it's done. And I am righteous in my resistance, except that kind of righteousness is the antithesis of that kind of resistance is the antithesis of righteousness. Why? Because there's always the chance, and now to bring to what she's asked, there's always the chance, if I will choose to stop looking for a partner and see that I already have one, there is a chance to see that the limitation that is inherent in this resistance is not set in stone, that I can see something new and understand something about myself, and in the advent of that new partnership, be moved along into a new kind of relationship with myself and the moment. Everybody understand okay, that's it. Mike's at the mic. We have 2 mics, which is one too many.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike. I'm just really glad that I can see the truth about where this negativity really comes from. It's not from God. Thank God we have God. Because of learning the truth from Guy, being here in a real school, real teaching, I can see where this negativity was inherited from my parents. I can see my parents now that had this negativity of whether it's jealousy, arrogance, and Mike has that too and has to work with that. It didn't come from God. God is helping Mike deal with this and work through it by watching it and bearing all this negativity. Bear it. See it properly, bear it. work through it. I had something else I wanted to say, and I'm losing it. It's not to blame it on anybody, whether you've inherited it from your parents or you've picked it up from being around the wrong people and you've taken in its negativity. The point is to see it and work with it properly, not to blame anything at all about it.
If the sins of the father are visited on the son 7 generations, something like that, do you think that means just 7 generations of your parents? Because it doesn't. 7 is an octave. So the sins of the father belong to the whole of this octave that you and I are in this time of our life. So it isn't your father, my father, nor was it his father. It is the father of this entire time. And to understand that can relieve you from judging or blaming the people in your life for the pain you have in it. Because they're as helpless to do with it as you are as helpless to blame them for it. That's where forgiveness starts. With understanding, because you have taken the right place in the wedding, you've been lifted to see and take part in another order of that wedding, another order of being. So that when something comes up and it wants to start blaming people, isn't it just like that? It can be, doesn't have to be 20 years ago or 50 years ago. It can be just like that. Irritation. When Christ was submissive to the will of his Father, when that man in whom lived the divine agreed to let that man be crucified for the sake of the divine, that all might see and be glorified through the revelations that are still being handed out in this time. He sweated blood. That doesn't mean he was happy with the pain he was in or that he had to go through. It means he understands that the resistance of the vine does not define its possibilities. The resistance of the vine is not the limitation of its possibilities. The vine produces fruit when it submits to the will of the Son. That means that when the will of the light that comes to reveal what is hidden in the darkness meets that darkness, the darkness doesn't go, oh, thank you for showing me that. It goes, no, you, this, that, or the other, but you understanding the whole of that relationship, participate in the wedding of that moment. And then you see for yourself the truth of that moment, and in seeing that truth, you are free in that moment to again go through successive subordination, successive submission, because it doesn't end. Rebirth is not said one and done, like the phony baloney religious teachers would have you believe. Moksha is not some split second. It is an instance in which it is realized that moksha exists, but that it isn't a character or a quality that you possess. It belongs to an understanding that no one knows, but intelligence flows. Doug, anything else?
Yes, we got a couple questions come in, Guy. Here's the first one from Susanna. I'll come on here. And she says, we need more examples on how to bear it. 3 days on the cross seems way too overwhelming.
Oh, I don't know, Suzanne, if you'll understand this, but I'll say it for your sake and everyone else's. The illusion is you have a choice. Because in scale you do. You can simply say it's too much. These teachings, you're right. You know, if it wasn't me speaking, would you say to Jesus Christ himself, would you say, you know what, you're asking a little too much? Here's Moses. Come on, let's go to across the desert. What, are you kidding? Buddha, I don't know what you're talking about. It's impossible to give up desire. Way too much pain. I'm in enough pain. No, don't give me more pain. You can find every example across the board. So I do have the choice that ends in the weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth, which is what, whether you see it or not, you know that when you're angry or upset or negative and dwelling in that darkness, caught up in all this fear and stuff like that, are you in the light having a wonderful time? Or is somewhere in you, which isn't in you, but it's there, weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth? Aren't you? Isn't that gnash? When you have an enemy, aren't you gnashing your teeth? So the choice is to see that, well, I don't want to try. It's not worth the effort. It's too much. And that's your reward. You're done. It's fine. On the other hand, to recognize, you know what, I always thought I had a choice in this anxiety. When I start feeling afraid or inadequate, I think I have a choice. My choice is I can just plan another time when I won't be like this. It's perfect, isn't it? Except plan after plan, all is in vain for those who struggle in the field of the opposites. And then one day, Susanna, I realized, oh God, I don't have a choice. My life keeps trying to show me that this consciousness suffers the content of itself that is in conflict with itself, and that until it is reborn, until it dies, nothing's going to happen. And then you'll understand 3 days on the cross, 3 representing the Trinity, 3 representing a wholeness. Meaning it is done, which is what the last words were. And then you won't think to yourself, I can't do this, I can't take this. You know why you'll stop thinking that to yourself? Because you'll understand if you want to partake in the wedding, that's the cost of it. That's the cost of it. And when you get ready and willing to pay that cost, lo and behold, the cost is nothing, because in exchange for it, you get someone who understands that that cost was never yours the way you imagine it, but belonged to an imaginary self that didn't want to suffer any more than it was already suffering. Yes or no? Okay, Doug, anything else?
Guy, we have one more question, and we're at the top of the hour, so after this question, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay.
And here's a question from Juan. He says, hello, Guy. Thank you very much for your teachings. Is the unconscious nature resistance personified, in a sense, by Jacob's fight with the angel that the Bible talks about?
Good for you. That's the right intuition. I don't know how many years ago it was, if I could even quantify it. But there was an incredibly clear impression that continues to develop, that there is no self without resistance at every level. That we, as we are now defined by resistance, are confined by the consciousness that doesn't know what to do with it other than to not want. But as you grow in your spiritual work, you start to realize this not want doesn't exist without I want. And they're not separate the way we imagine, but they come into existence together in a consciousness that, presently divided, believes one partner is good to have, the other partner isn't. And then when you have the right partner, you see that you've been partnered with an unconscious nature that's divided everything up into opposites. And that which shows you the opposites is your true partner, because then it shows you you are not separate from all that you have imagined you are. Then resistance serves instead of you serving it. I think that's it. Is that it, Doug?
That's it on my end. Did you want to open it up to the room?
We have a certain unknown person stepping up to the microphone.
Hi, everyone. My name is Terry. I came across a quote years ago before the work found me. And this talk totally, I didn't understand what it meant at that time, but this talk, I think, was a perfect explanation of it. I can't remember who the quote was by, but it was, "There is no trap more deadly than the one we set for ourselves." And the trap, of course, being this do-si-doing with these partners, this identification with these partners in every moment. And the deadliness is because it kills the possibility of any kind of transfiguration in the moment, of knowing anything about the divine life. This morning, I left the house early. I went to a store at 7 a.m. And as I was walking in, there was a woman walking in at the same time, and she was a worker for there. She had her apron thrown over her shoulder. And when I laid eyes on her, I said, "Good morning." But right there was a snapshot, right there, side by side. Terry, superior to this woman. And right then, instead of being with the right partner, standing there naked, it was like, what was that about? Was that because she was Hispanic, because she was a worker at a store, just do-si-doing with the wrong partners, And we're not going to, what did Guy say on Wednesday night? We need to ask something of ourselves in the moment and then make the necessary sacrifice of ourselves.
Correct.
Nothing's going to change.
Keep in mind now that judging yourself is having the wrong partner. You must remember that, because we're instantaneously able to judge others, and then if we judge others, then we turn around and judge ourselves and believe that proves that somehow or other we're separate and above that unconscious nature and its endless partner. Yeah, okay. Patricia.
Hello, excuse me. My name is Patricia. I learned something new this week, and what I learned was I've been going through this long period of unnamed resistance. I don't know what I'm resisting, but there's just this, I realize it's resistance, maybe just I don't know. But anyhow, I realize that I have to stop resisting the resistance, if that makes sense. And when I did that, my energy that was being wasted in the resistance came back to me, and I started feeling a lot better. It's just so interesting how what we do to ourselves, and we're not even aware of anything. At least not, I could see the 43 years I've been doing this work, I'm aware of this much, and out of an eternity of things I could learn.
And you will. Another strange person coming to the microphone.
Hi, my name is Deborah. Very strange. I have been seeing that I have partnered, and I don't even know if that's the right way to say it, with the wrong partners my whole life. Liars and cheaters,
Yes.
and it's unbelievable. And something in me has just given myself over to these lies, their identities, and to start to see these identities are lies feels like a dismantling of me, of who I am. It's sweating blood. It doesn't feel great. But I know there's something deep down inside of me that knows, that's grateful, because it's been a lie. It's all been a lie. To start to see you've lived a lie is really the only salvation there is.
Morning, everyone. My name is Wayne. These talks over the last few weeks have really got me to really see something about myself, about this nature. Because today's talk helped me see that this partner that I've partnered up with has been with me my whole life. It's this undivided mind that keeps chattering to me and telling me what I need to be, what Wayne needs to be doing. And being in this work, you just have to work. I need to work, and I'm seeing myself 24 hours a day. This these talk. I mean, what I see about this mind is monkey see, monkey do. That is, this mind tells me what I've identified as me, what to do, and this nature does it. This lower nature does it. And now we have a way. I have a way to really start to see that there's another way. There's another path. And I just need to stay with it. I find it's very hard because it's this constant identification, and that's where the submission needs to happen. Wayne needs to give up his authority. There's only one real authority, and that is God, love. That needs to be constantly worked with and identified with. I appreciate these talks so much. My desire is to see more, to learn more about this lower nature. But yeah, it's acceptance.
Come on. When you love something, really love something, isn't part of that love being perfectly submissive to the relationship, isn't it? I see something breathtaking on the mountain with a cloud. I'm perfectly submissive to it. In fact, I can't be, in quotes, submissive enough, because the deeper, greater, longer the observer and the observed are a singularity, the more the presence of that love removes the pain of being someone who's always apart from everything that he sees and trying to figure out how to end that disturbance. I think that's why they called Christ love, the perfect love of the Father, all of that, perfect submission. But you have to understand it. You can't walk around. If you have some idea of I'm going to be submissive, you're a nightmare. You're on, Heidi.
Hello, my name is Heidi. I thought this was a really exceptional talk on submission, which is a don't say word right now, but much needed. And I looked it up, and it says that submission is the act of yielding to a superior force. Receptive to love is what I added. I could see that Heidi was incapable of receiving love for maybe her whole life, until in the work to marry Charlie, it was revealed over and over and over that there was a resistant body of self that had to have everything its way. And then it said it would agree to receive love. Well, that's clearly not how love works. And that self, until that self was seen to be just the monster in the way of love, nothing could change, and nothing could change year after year. But once it became evident that, wow, that's just a body of resistance, very much like, when your parent corrects you and they're in a negative state, you naturally resist them back with the same negativity, and you really can't receive the correction. You just do what they want so they won't be as negative. And that's not quite the right order. But when you can receive a right correction of die to that part of yourself, see the selfishness, whatever it is for you, but for me it was just so much unseen insistence in the way. Then there's all of my work. Nothing's wrong with him, nothing's wrong with life, nothing's wrong with anything. My work is to see something keeps getting in the way. And that my work is just see that and set it down. And what's really beautiful, very much connected to this talk of agreeing to be submissive, is that then I can feel something. For the first time I could feel, the wind on my face, feel warmth, be touched by something other than what my mind was giving me. And I'm very grateful for this talk and for the lessons that love just keeps offering that can't be received for the longest time.
2 quick closing thoughts. First, you mustn't have the idea that someone else can't be wrong. We do what's wrong all the time to each other and to ourselves. So it's not a question of somehow everybody's guiltless because God is good. That's not true. But because God is good, you can begin to understand the role that wrong relationships play in your life to bring you into a right relationship with your true partner. That's one. And number 2, some of you need to understand this because you just constantly enable people. Love is not making a deal. Love is the end of the deal maker. Love is not making a deal. It is the end of the deal maker. Because then there's true relationship, true exchange, and true seeing, as opposed to seeing what you want when you make a deal with people to win their love. You win nothing. I don't care what you do. You win nothing but deceit. Do your work. Remember this idea of successive submission. It's what life is. Participate in it. Have a new partner. See you Wednesday.